There we go. So, assignment 3. Code review next Friday. The world of 2 villages. This assignment is about association, but also about overloading constructors. What we're essentially going to be doing here is taking our knowledge of object-oriented programming and applying that to drawing things in JavaFX. So, that was that thing, not my, make the same beep. It's the same beep as my camcorder. Good grief. All right. You will use the FX graphics template for this assignment, and you will define multiple classes for objects that can draw themselves on a graphics context. This is going to be the first assignment where the number of classes you write is starting to get larger, right? The classes are getting hopefully smaller and more numerous, right? So, yes?
Did you accidentally set this in the 22nd?
No. Maybe?
Yeah, it says it's on the 22nd for some reason.
Oh, I probably didn't do it accidentally at the time.
Yeah, because looking at my calendar here, this just showed up.
Yep. All right, let's set the due date. So if code review is here, the due date will be there. March 8th.
Right, that says 8th.
There we go. All right, due date set, March 8th.
Yep,
So
there we go, it's fixed.
March troops, beware the Ides of March. So, where were we here? So essentially, the purpose of this assignment is to create a graphics, an FX graphics thing to reproduce something that looks like this. There are some requirements. But generally, we have 2 villages. A village consists of 3 houses, right? A house minimally consists of the house itself, a window, and a door. Please, feel free to make them not look quite exactly like this, right? Villages also have a size and population. Each of these individual houses has a population. The size of the house is proportional to the population therein. So, there is also the Emperor's house. It is the biggest. Your colors, names, etc. Can and should be different from this. The UML class diagram on the next page shows which classes you are to develop and how they relate to one another. Make sure you implement the UML class diagrams exactly as shown. Your villages do not have to look exactly. Yes. At a minimum, the number of occupants and the spacing between each house should be determined randomly, which should change the size and population reported on each run. You can also try to set the house size randomly, as shown in the example, but this is trickier and not required. So, getting the house to scale with the population is not actually required. It's a nice to have. Nice to have. Here is your UML diagram. So you can see we have a village which is associated with 3 houses. Each house is associated with a door and a window. You can get a fair distance in this assignment just by taking these UML descriptions and translating them reasonably directly into Java classes, right? This gives you all of the instance variables and all of the method headings that you will require. After that, your task is simply and purely fill in the bodies of the methods, hook that up to the graphics FX template. Make sense? Very good. There are some notes. A door is a white rectangle that is half as wide as it is high. Its location is the top left corner. A window is a white circle. Its location is its center. Honestly, if you want to make them a little fancier than these descriptions, I'm cool with that. A house is a square. Its location is the top left corner, and it contains a window and a door, appropriately sized somewhere within the square. The second constructor in the class diagram below is used to create the king or the emperor's house. This sets the number of occupants to 1 and the color to the king or emperor's color. The king's house should be larger than the village houses. The house constructor creates the door and the window with appropriate sizes and placement based on its own location and size. So basically, if you have a village at a particular location, the 3 houses are in some way offset from that location. They're not just kind of randomly strewn about the map. Make sense? A village is a collection of houses of the same color. The houses in a village are in a straight line from left to right, spaced out neatly. The location of a village corresponds to the bottom left corner of the first house. The village Do I need to read this to you, or can you guys read it yourself? Yeah. Do you have any questions? Okay. If you're looking for a helpful example, see the donuts, square donut, and related classes in this week's example code. One of the week's example code, probably week 4. Documentation standards, please make sure that you do your documentation. I have to say, one of the things which I have been noticing is that people aren't doing their documentation. I know it's only worth 1 mark, but come on, I want to see it. I will take it off as many times as I need to until I start seeing that gosh darn documentation. Documentation is important. Submitting in the usual way. Going further, if you have time and volition, basically just make them fancier and more complicated and they'll look nicer. Yeah, okay. Any questions? All right. Let me just check to see if my wife's going into labor.
What?
She's not pregnant. But you never
Why
know.
you say she's going
You know?
to labor? That would imply you're having another kid.
Yeah, it would, wouldn't it? But you know there are actual documented instances of women going through an entire pregnancy without realizing they're actually pregnant. Yeah.
That happened to a friend of mine.
That did? Oh my goodness, that must have been such a shock.
She thought she was infertile and she was young, and then she ended up, she was like 7 months pregnant when she found out.
Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a shocker.
Yeah,
You know?
she was lucky that she was still pretty young though, so everything was okay.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, as long as everything works out in the end, that's all you can ask for. Why are you not? Where are you, Canvas? Canvas? I hate Canvas. So, let's see here. So, So, we're going to talk about arrays of objects. Last time, it's been some time, we had both a midterm and we had, like, you know, reading week between us and, like, section 1 of this material. But we'll press on as best we can. We need to talk about arrays of objects. So, objects are data types, right? When we declare a variable, if the data type we use is a class name, then we have created a reference variable to an object of that type. Right? Makes sense? We can, of course, declare arrays of objects. It's entirely possible. Right? In fact, it is often desirable to do so. Take, for example, your vending machine assignments that you did, right? All, you know, a preponderance of you produced code that looked roughly like this, you know, VM machine 1, VM machine 2. As I said previously, any time you find yourself numbering variables, you probably wanted to use an array, right? As a matter of fact, and a few people did this, people who kind of, you know, people who are kind of, you know, wise to the ways of the world, shall we say, declared an array of machines like so. You simply exchange the primitive data type for the object, or for the class name, and boom, you now have an array of those things. Make sense? So far, so good. That shouldn't be too complicated. So, let's make it more complicated. So, let's assume that this is what we've done. Let's say we've made a public instance variable of the class. It's an array of vending machines. How do we instantiate an array?
Which type of array?
This is an array of vending machines. If it were integers, how would you do it?
New int, and then empty brackets or in the brackets how many you want in that.
Right? That's it. It's a little hot in here, isn't it? Yeah. I heard they're doing construction like up on like the second or the third floor or something, so maybe that's having an effect on the HVAC. Some people got their classes moved mid-semester. That was a thing. Yeah. It was a thing because professors don't like to have their classes moved, particularly this far into a semester. They can get quite cranky And we had some cranky professors in the office, let me tell you. I'm not talking about Professor Korkey at all. So, I think it was the other Java section had to be moved. So that's how you do it. It's the same syntax as declaring an array of primitives. The only thing that you are doing is you are exchanging the data type for the data type that these things were declared with. That's it. Simple, right? Very good. So, here's the catch. Sure, this thing creates an array. Just to make it reasonable, let's say 5. Right? So in memory, going to memory, oh vision, memory, we create a new thing called machines, which is a reference to an array containing itself 5 things, right? That bit, that much creation of this is done by that line over there. Creation of this is done by this line here. But here's the thing. What is the value of an object that you have not instantiated? In this example here, assuming we've done nothing else, what does machine 2 contain? Nothing. How do we write nothing in Java?
No.
Null is correct. Oh, and by the way, the following symbol is sometimes used for null. I'm going to be using that symbol for null. But I think the notes use phi, which is dumb. Don't use phi. It's supposed to be a 0 with a slash through it. That's null. Phi is a different thing. So, when you create this new array, how many objects have we actually instantiated?
Nothing.
None. That's right. Every spot in this array is initially a null value. Does that make sense? So we have created not an array of objects, we have created an array of object references. References which are currently not pointing to anything. There are no objects corresponding to the references. Does that make sense? So far so good? Any questions? Okay. So, it's not entirely useful to hold an array of nulls. Perhaps we want some things in there. Sometimes these will be useful. Assignment 4, which is upcoming, you'll have to know, how to work with nulls as well as with objects. I'm a little excited about assignment 4. I hope you guys like it. I wrote it myself this semester. It's Towers of Hanoi, which is a sort of a classical logic problem. You'll see. Don't worry about it too much. Worry about assignment 3 for now, and we'll worry about assignment 4 later. Okay? I'm just a little excited. I like it. I like that puzzle. It's a great puzzle. So, one thing that we could do to instantiate all of those, I'll just put the indexes in here. Right? We could instantiate these the same way that we would instantiate any gosh darned variable ever, right? Machines at 0 are equal to new VM, right? Machines at, yeah, words words writing. Machines at 1 is equal to new v. Right? Boring. Even with copy paste, that's boring. We are programmers. We hate doing that. We hate typing. If you have multiple lines of code and the only difference in them is one number, what should you be writing?
An array? Or like a list?
A loop.
Oh.
Yes. You loop through that, right? Ta-da! We go through each value, we create a new object, we remove the null value, we replace it with a reference to the newly created object. We go through, we do that each time for every slot in the array, and suddenly, Shazam, we have an array of objects. Does that make sense? Good. So, any questions? Okay. So, let me show you why for each loops are not something you can do this with. Okay? Because you may be saying to yourself, oh, well, for each loops are easier than that. Maybe I can use it here. But you can't, for the following reasons. So, let's just write it out. For VM little v in machines, v is equal to new VM. There you go. This will not work. Let me show you why. Let's go through the memory. So let's start back off with our uninitialized array. So, this line here creates a new object reference called v. It copies the value of the first element of the array. What is the first value in the array? What's that?
No.
Null. So it copies in a null. Very good. What does this line do? Store in v a reference to a new vending machine object. So, okay, we create the new vending machine object. Huzzah! A new VM. We store the reference in v. So far, so good. What else do we do? Nothing. We loop back to the front. Now, what's the next value that v picks up? Well, we look at the next item in the list. So that would be this one. What's this?
Another null.
So we copy null to v. Then we execute this line, create a new VM. Create a new VM, store the reference, get rid of null, replace it with a reference to the newly created object, just like so. Very good. And then, what do? Well, v is immediately given, the next value in the array, which is, of course, null. You guys see what's happening?
From this angle, it's hard to tell. From this angle, it's kind of hard to tell.
Well, if the angle's bad, there are seats closer to the middle. So, we have objects here, right? There are no references to them. That is dead memory.
So it basically creates two VMs, or?
It will eventually take five. It will eventually create 5 of them, one for each element of the array. The crucial thing is the references to these objects are not being stored in the array.
It's being stored in the memory?
It's being stored here in the variable v, but that's being overwritten on each iteration of the loop. So, in consequence of all of this, after the enhanced for loop, after the enhanced for loop is finished executing, you are no better off than you started. Your array is still filled with nulls. You have not at any point written into it. So, all you have done is generate a whole lot of mess for the garbage collector to clean up. Right? So, 15-second summary of what a garbage collector is. Within the Java runtime environment, there is a process that looks for objects which have become orphaned, things that no longer have references to them. It runs periodically, it collects them up, and it deletes them.
So basically it just collects code, then there's nothing to go off of.
Yeah, so the thing about data is data with no context is meaningless, right? If I gave you a table of numbers and I didn't tell you what that was for, maybe it's baseball statistics, maybe it's census data, I don't tell you. What do those numbers mean? They mean nothing, they're meaningless. You know, you might as well not even have them. The same thing is true of data in a computer, right? Unless I have some kind of context for what this region of memory means, there's no point to it. There's nothing useful that can be done with it. So the garbage collector collects them up, releases the memory, allows it to be overwritten, and it's gone. You can't get those back again. Once you've broken the link, there's no way to get them back. So we create, maybe this isn't an array of 5, maybe this is an array of 5,000, right? We create 5,000 of these things, release the memory off into the ether, and that's it, right? It's useless. So, the moral of the story, if you're creating new objects, you must do so in a traditional for loop or a while loop. These things won't work, but these things are quite handy if all you have to do is call one method on everything, right? As long as the array is already instantiated, you can call methods on them very quickly and easily. It's all good. Technically, this variable becomes an alias for whatever element of the array you're on. Right? Make sense?
Pretty much.
Okay, good. That's 2 minutes over time, so thank you very much for your time and attention. If you know anybody who didn't get their test, they have to come see me in my office now. I will not bring them to the next class. Sounds good? All right. Go forth and have dinner, I guess. Eventually, whenever you have dinner,
This is usually the latest at this stage during the week.
Yeah, I sometimes have to teach a night class, but
I've had a night class since last semester.
Are you wanting me to use pop duplicates like a
I prefer if you did it without that. So let me show you. So if I have 1, 3, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 3, 2, 4, 5.
Should I put back?
The reason I give it to you is it's a bit tricky.
Yeah, I've been trying to.
See you tomorrow, sir.
Have a good one. Yes. Would you prefer to, we can have a conversation as I'm walking back to my office if you prefer, a little more privacy.
That works?
Okay. Hi. The JavaScript midterm test, the one next week,
Yeah.
module 0, 1, and 2, not including SVG. Okay? Awesome.
Yeah, email Suzanne, so I know what to do, what to expect for Saturday.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, we kind of just need people. I'm happy also telling you what you need to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right? Just the bodies,
Yeah.
it takes, it takes like really the hands-on connect to make sure everything goes like smoothly the day of.
Like, it's not going to be as bad as it has been in previous years, because like in previous years we've had like 100 participants,
Yeah.
but this year we're not gonna hit 100 participants, so like shouldn't be too bad. But
Yeah, I'm not expecting it to be. I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun.
yeah.
I'll see you then.
Yep. Yeah. There we go. Just see here. Yes, that will do. So, So last time we finished class off with a discussion of arrays of objects and how one goes about initializing arrays of objects, how a regular good old classic for loop will do the thing and the quote-unquote enhanced for loop or the for each loop will not. As much as I'd like to sit down and do some exercises portions, we're a bit behind in the material, so unfortunately we have to keep moving. So, array access or accessing objects which are stored in arrays is not terribly difficult. The syntax ends up looking, just ever so slightly abstruse. However, by the time you're finished, certainly third semester, you should be used to the idea of chaining multiple accesses together, including methods. Although this is not a thing that we do in Java, past a certain point, these can get quite long and complicated in JavaScript. So, particularly if you're trying to get information out of a JSON structure, for example. So, if we want to access a method of an element of an array, we simply provide the array and the index to that element. We are chaining together array access operator with the method access operator dot. Does that make sense? Now, it doesn't matter if you store this as a separate reference and then call the method on it, or if you access it directly. In this example, when we say circle C is equal to A at 0, array at 0, what we are doing is we are creating a reference duplicate. We are duplicating the reference, right? So another thing you call this is an alias, right? So hopefully you remember this from a few weeks ago when we talked about this, but when we have in memory, ooh, actually, you know what? Maybe I'll just do it in Python tutor. That might be easier. Python tutor. Java. There we go. So throw myself a little class in there. Public int x. Sure. There we go. If I create, oh, is that a little small? That's a little small. Is that better? Is that good? Alright. If I create an array of A's, A array xs is equal to new A array of size 5, or I suppose we could do size 10. Public, what am I thinking? For int I is equal to 0, I is less than xs.length I plus plus. By the way, this is a naming convention which is derived from Haskell. If you have a thing and you call it something, if you have a collection of things, you call that somethings, right? So if we have X, you know, that's a single thing. If we have a collection of X's, it's X's, right? I suppose in this case it would be more accurate to call them A's. It's a plural. So, A's at I is equal to new A. We can then assign to the value of X, since we've made it public, A's at I dot X is equal to I, perhaps. There we go. Please wait, the code is running. There we go. So as we step through the code, we can see that in the first step, an array of null values has been created. Then we enter the for loop, we get our variable I, step in, we are creating a new frame for the initializer, right? Creating X, and then, as we can see, where did I put my pointing stick? There it is. As we can see, an instance of A has been created, and a reference to that is stored in the first element of the array. So far, so good. If we continue populating the array, I 5 would have done the trick, that's okay. We can see what's gone on structurally. Does this make sense? So far so good? Cool. When you're trying to figure out all of these, like when you're trying to figure out anything to do with reference types, this editor, like pythontutor.com specifically, is an extremely useful tool because it actually shows you the arrows and where things are being referred and that sort of thing. It's very good at showing you the difference between your regions of memory.
I was gonna say you dropped your stick.
I did, yes. Thank you. Yeah, I had realized that. Yeah, thanks. So, very good. Any questions? So, let's create a new A variable inside of the scope of main. Let's call it B, and let's assign to it the value of A at 0, or maybe A at 3. Let's see what happens. Oh, sorry, AS at 3. So, when we initialize this instance, or sorry, when we run this line of code, we are duplicating the reference stored in A's 3. A's 3 points to this one. We are duplicating that reference. This is an alias. This means that anything we could have done with this reference, we can also do with this reference. So, if we want to assign the value by saying b.x equals 7, we can do that. If we want to call methods, we can do that. Anything you like. An alias to an object is as good as the initial reference to it. Make sense? Any questions? No? All right. Sounds good. So, the question you may come to have about all of this. So, okay, sure. We've been talking for some time about how we go about creating arrays of objects, but what is the point of creating an array of objects? Why would we want to do that? Well, when we consider our UML diagrams, an association relationship may have an arity. Arity. The arity of the relationship is the number of things that are implied by the relationship. So, in the case of this highly simplified UML diagram, the bank has how many customers? 1,000 customers, right? Now, do you want to write out 1,000 individual lines of code to initialize every single one of those customers? I think not. We are programmers, and if there's one thing we hate, it's typing. You must hate typing with a passion. Alright? You must do as little of it as possible. using your intelligence to substitute for brute force and brute strength. So, whenever you see an association arrow given in a UML diagram, normally, if the number is more than 2, you'll want an array for that. Even if the number is 2, you may want an array for that. Now, consider this guy right here. 0 to 2 is how you read that. 0 dot dot 2 should be interpreted a number between 0 and 2, inclusive. Meaning it could be 0 or 2 as well, right? So, generally, the way that we enact these, we know the upper limit for the number of things in the association. The upper limit is, in this case, 2, right? There are at most 2 accounts associated with any particular customer. This means if we were to declare an array, we know how big it would be. Make sense? However, the slots in that array may go unused. So what does it mean to have unused slots in an array? Yes?
It's just empty spaces in the memory register?
Yeah, we leave them null. We just don't initialize them, right? So, coming back to Python Tutor, if I did something exceedingly silly, and I looped until as long as I was less than a's.length minus 3, let's take a look at the state of the array after I'm finished. This is the final state of the array. You can see that the array is partially filled, right? When you do assignment 4, you will need to be able to work with partially full arrays. So, okay, all right. So if you're working with a partially full array, there's an important check that you need to know how to do, and that's to check to see if the reference is null. Fortunately, it's quite easy to do that. You simply check to see if the reference is null. You use an if statement. Well, let's say at 5. System.out.print line. Yes. The one thing about this as an editor is like my Control S instinct is so hardwired. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, thank you. So, we get the output yes. So, it's quite easy to check to see if an object reference is null or not. You simply use the equality comparison operator, the null literal, and that's how you do it. That's how you check to see if something is null. Does that make sense? Good. Any questions? No? Okay. Moving on, moving on. So, just as a forecast of where things go in the future, eventually in this course we will talk about lists. If you see an asterisk here, that means many but no fixed bounds. Those are normally represented by the dynamic data structure lists, which do not have a fixed upper size the way that arrays do. I did the difference between arrays and lists here, right? Pretty sure I did, yeah. I do it every time, so, you know. Or I try to do it every time. Okay. Any questions about arrays of objects? Okay. Everybody's going to get 100% on the test too then? Okay. Sounds good. I am a little excited about assignment 4.
How come?
I made it.
What, you didn't make all of these?
No, I'm not the Java person. I don't own the course, but I feel it's like fitting to contribute to the courses that you participate in. So basically once a semester I try to throw a new Java assignment at Karen anytime I'm teaching Java. She gratefully receives them because, you know, work is work. And, you know, if people don't make new assignment versions, the versions never get updated, right? You might remember the old dice collection assignment? Yeah. Like that thing, there was only ever 2 versions and they were almost identical to each other, right? It was either dice or cards, but they both wanted a histogram, right? So, have you seen assignment 4?
Not yet, no.
Yeah, okay. It's Towers of Hanoi.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. So I have to put a caveat on that though. It's not like the solution to Towers of Hanoi. It's just like a command line version of the game where you play the game. It's not like it solves itself. Because the solution for Towers of Hanoi is recursive and something that you should study in data structures and algorithms, or possibly even Steve's Math of Gaming class, you know? But just to make a simulation that does Towers of Hanoi, well within scope for what we are doing here. So it's really, it kind of fundamentally boils down to you have 3 stacks and you have to write push and pop operations on them. So it's not bad. I like it. Okay. Okay, so moving on. Yeah. It's although it's called Towers of Hanoi, it was invented by a French person who was capitalizing on the French trend of Orientalism in the 19th century, where basically if you wanted to be taken seriously, you had to pretend that you found something in a Buddhist temple in Myanmar or something like that, you know? So it's it doesn't really have anything to do with Hanoi. It's just kind of a logic puzzle game that a French guy came up with.
Yeah, you haven't made it visible yet. That's okay. The assignment. the assignment?
Yeah, I will next week
Yeah.
for this class. I think I might still have to add it to Canvas actually. All right. So, everybody should have IntelliJ up and running. The material for this week is graphical user interfaces in JavaFX. So this is going to be quite similar to JavaScript. JavaScript is covering SVG graphics at the moment. We are kind of dipping back into Java's own SVG engine. Basically, the thing that we are now doing is we are adding components that look suspiciously like HTML form elements, because they are, into JavaFX. That's what we're doing. It's a bit of a lighter week. I think we can probably zip through this reasonably quickly. And then we'll be prepared for next week. We'll be back on track. So, let me a slight pause while the doctor takes his own medicine, and I actually load IntelliJ. Wait, it's just on here, right? You don't have to go through.
Yeah, it's in the homepage.
There we go. Yeah. Man, you guys have no idea what a victory that was. To just get it off of bloody apps anywhere.
It's probably taking so much time.
Well, it's like IT doesn't have a lot of time or resources for anything, so they like to do things the way that costs them the least resources, and that is apps anywhere most of the time. So, what's the name? GUI. GUI, GUI, GUI.
Well, that's a work on the class.
Make a new Java class. Well, yeah. Call it FX graphics template, because that's what we're about to go get. So, the FX graphics template that we are about to copy into our project, structurally identical to the one that you were using in the very first week, I think it was? Structurally identical. However, it does have a few comments which have been added to help you kind of, it's a bit of a to-do list of how to set these things up. So it is worth it to get this week's version of the template and not go back to week 1. So let's do that. FX GUI template, pardon me. There we go. Get rid of the package statement. There we go. We have an error. Right click, show context actions, rename file. Boom!
So GUI template, not graphics template.
Yes. There is an easy way to fix it though. if you right click and do the context action to fix it, it will rename the file to the appropriate file name. Good. So, alright. So our object is to create a dialog box that does that. We have two inputs. We have a button, and then we have an output which repeats the inputs X number of times. Make sense? So, you'll notice that there are annotations here giving you things to do. Instance variables for view components and model, private event handlers and helper methods. We don't have to worry about event handlers just yet. We need to lay the thing out first, but event handlers are how we give buttons the ability to be clicked on. So, within the start method, we have a number of steps. Create the model. In this case, we don't have one. Create the GUI components. Add the components to the root. Configure the components. Add event handlers, and show the stage of 6, but that's given for you. You don't have to do anything there. So, this is object-oriented programming. All of the software artifacts which we are adding to our GUI are, anybody care to guess? Objects, because it's object-oriented programming. So the way that you create these things is by creating objects. Very good. There are a collection of classes within the JavaFX library that allow you to create GUI components of various types. So, let's start with the most basic one, the text field. Text field. So, be careful. Ho, 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 ho. Be careful of the drop down. Note, you are provided two definitions for the text field class. One is correct, the other incorrect. Do not select java.awt, select javafx.scene.control. That is the one. Do not mix up your libraries. In fact, you can see I accidentally did it. I accidentally did the thing. It inserted this. This line will screw everything up. So you gotta take it out. Immediately. There we go. So, just like any other object, you now need to give it a name. There we go. So, this is my recommendation to all of you. It is very important what type of object is this variable represents. You can't, once the code gets sufficiently long, it becomes difficult to tell, what was this again? Was this a button? Was this a text field? Was this a number field? Right? Yeah?
For some reason, my AAA has problems.
Yes. I'll come around and take a look. So, my recommendation, whenever you're working with FX, whenever you're working with these types of objects, something like this will greatly improve the readability and maintainability of your code. Include in the name of the variable some kind of indication of what the type of the variable is. So in this case, it's a text field, so I'm calling it TF underscore, and then the variable name as I choose it. Make sense? It's still important to give it something descriptive here, right? But this will, trust me, as we go through this, following this convention consistently, will greatly improve the readability of your code. So, software companies will often have conventions for how you create your variables. I'm seeing how long it takes people to realize I've stopped talking. There we go. All right. So, it's okay to, it's good that you came to the room, but you also have to be present spiritually as well as physically, right? So, at software companies, they often have sets of regulations about how their code is to be put together, right? These are called code conventions. One that I have seen, which is actually a thing people use in real life, is to include the data type of the variable in the variable name itself. This has the effect of improving the readability so that if you're in an environment where it's not obvious what type, when it's important and not obvious what the type of the thing is, that is always available to you just by reading the name of the variable, right? Another code convention which I've seen like a few times when I've looked at code from companies. Very often on the last, and this is like a convention that probably predates editors that do code folding, but many of these conventions either come from an era before modern IDEs, or they're assuming some of the employees are still using VI or something like that, right? Another thing that I sometimes see is on the last curly brace, you have a comment that says something like end method, this would be start, right? Because if this is all your screen shows, right? It's actually quite useful to know what method this one was, right? And if you put that in, it helps you navigate the code, right? So yeah, it lets you work with the code a bit more quickly, easily. In general, my very, very, very firm advice is to follow whatever code convention your company enforces, because, trust me, you'll hear about it if you don't. But it's not a bad idea to pick up these types of standard practices because they do help. They do help, right? The number one difficulty in software design is managing the complexity of the software itself, right? So, all right. So we have created our text field object. big deal. We have an object instantiated. We have not yet actually put it in the GUI. If I run this, run, can I run it, please? Run. Boink. You can see that the mere fact of creating the object has not added it to our box. We do this by adding the components to the root. This is a line that you should just memorize, right? Right there. root.getChildren.add. You can add them individually, or you can add them all as a comma-separated list. TF input. There we go. If we run that now, we shall see, dun da da da, our text box appears. This is very similar to in JavaScript when you create a new element, a page element in JavaScript. Just creating it in JavaScript does not automatically add it to the DOM. For one thing, the browser can't figure out for itself where you wanted to add it, right? So you have to add it yourself manually. This is the sort of analogous step inside of JavaFX. Make sense? So, you'll notice, however, the thing is in its default position, and its default position is snugged right up into the top left corner of the screen. So perhaps it would be useful to be able to modify its position. There is a suite of methods which you use to modify the various attributes of these components. TF input dot, for example, relocate. Relocate allows you to specify the X and Y positions of the component so that you can pick it and move it where you want it to. Move it where you want it to be, pardon me. So let's just say, let's put it at X50, Y50. See what that looks like. It's a little too far in. Maybe we'll do X10, Y10. There you go. It's kind of like offset from the edge. And there we have it. Yes?
Could you look at some of these errors here if that's right?
Yes. So, while I'm doing that, everybody, please get that up and running. Please get those 3 lines of code into your thingy.
Yeah, I like people errors for some reason.
Let me see. Yes. So you copied all of the code into an existing class.
Oh, you're supposed to.
Yeah, don't put the class inside of another class.
Alright.
There we go. And that might mean that you need to rename it. Yes. So if you FX GUI template, if you right click here, rename file, change it to the name of the class here. That should cause that error to go away. Oh.
still 4 errors left though. Let's see what your imports.
That's the guy. So, in the autocomplete here, you gotta be careful. See, java.awt. Now that is like, it's very frustrating that this exists, but it's basically the exact same thing as JavaFX, but if you use any of that AWT anything, it'll break it. Okay. So if you click that, did you get it work? Not quite?
I still have 4 errors.
Okay. If I may. So basically it's complaining that the import isn't occurring. That works.
Oh, I have to use a different one? Or?
So you see so IntelliJ automatically inserts the import statements that you need for the libraries that you use. So it has included java.scene.control.text field, which was necessary. Now let's see what you got here. See, you have not used the same name in both places, and that's where the rest of the errors are coming.
Oh, so it's a. Oh, it's forward. Yeah, I got it.
Good. So, in order to continue to reproduce the thing we're trying to reproduce, this guy right here, we will need two additional, we'll need one additional text field, a button, and then this guy, which I believe is it just text? No, it's a label, right? Yeah, I think it's label. So let's duplicate. Control D duplicates a line of code. Maybe input 1, input 2. That will need to become add all. Of course, the problem we have now is that we are relocating input 1 and 2 to the same position in space, so we should offset those. And it's kind of one of those situations where you kind of just play with it until you like how it looks. That's a little tight. There you go, that looks pretty good. Now we have two text fields. Let's add the button. So, in the case of buttons, the constructor takes a string as an argument. That string is the text that the button has on it. So it's the button's label. Oh. And while I'm on the subject of naming conventions for these variables, there's kind of a nice little secondary effect of putting these as prefixes rather than suffixes. It means if you type like TF, your autocomplete brings up a list of all of your text field variables, which is useful, right? Work with the editor, not against the editor. The editor, the compiler is not your friend, right? It's a mistake. It's generally a mistake to think of the computer as being your friend, right? Just like it's a mistake to think of me as being your friend. I'm not your friend. I'm your instructor. I like to be friendly with people, but that doesn't mean I'm friends with everybody, right? You should be on friendly terms with your editor, even if you aren't really friends with it, right? You should at least be willing to work with your editor in sort of a mutually supportive professional relationship, right? So, let's relocate the button. Let's see, plus 35 would be 80. There we go. You can, of course, put different properties in there as well, modifying fonts, modifying the sizes of things, etc. But, there we go, we now have a button. Huzzah. It doesn't do anything, but it's there. Click, 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 click. Nothing. Typey, 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 type. Doesn't do anything. Okay? So, one more component, and that's the label. Label. Label output equals new label. This will eventually be output. And I suppose while we're here, we can set some initial text for the text fields as well. Enter your name. Enter your age. There you go. One issue though. Where's my label? I made a label. Where did it go?
Is behind the input though?
Okay, let's try moving it then. Label output dot relocate 10 and plus 35, 115. There we go. Let's see if that works. Nope, still not there.
Did you forget to add in the add-all?
That's what I did. It doesn't show up unless you put it here. There you go. Now everything is the way we expect it to be. Very good. Any questions? Everybody get that so far? Very good. Okay. Now, for the fun bit. Event handlers. So, in JavaScript, when we set up an event handler, when we use the addEventListener method, we give that method two things. What are they? Bearing in mind that you absolutely need to be knowing this for the test next week. Two pieces of information. Well, technically 3 pieces of information. How does the add event listener line go
So wait,
in JavaScript?
hold on, I was gonna ask,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
were you talking about like the Tuesday midterm or?
Yeah, that's the one.
Are you being sarcastic or?
No, I'm being deadly serious. I'm being deadly serious. This is going to be on the midterm because it's an essential thing that we covered in JavaScript.
Oh no, I thought you meant like, you said next week, I was like, wait, the one on Tuesday?
Yes, Tuesday of next week we're having a JavaScript midterm.
I thought that was for, wait, I thought.
Wait, we're the Tuesday class, right? And then Wednesday is the other, I'm pretty
We are
sure.
Tuesday.
Yeah, we're on Tuesday. Yes, next Tuesday is a midterm in JavaScript.
No, didn't you say it was HTML? You
Well, I mean, it's difficult to not have HTML involved because we're
said-
modifying.
Like you said, it was for the client side class, not
Yeah.
for the JavaScript class.
Those are the same class.
So wait, I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm confused.
So,
JavaScript is in that class.
Yeah,
so it's a midterm for both of them?
they are 2 different languages being covered by the same class. So we have to know HTML in order to work with a web page in JavaScript. The HTML forms like the basis of input and output with respect to a JavaScript program. So yes, you need to know both HTML and CSS and JavaScript on the client-side midterm, although much of the time, as shorthand for the somewhat longish phrase, client-side programming, I will abbreviate that class as being JavaScript, because JavaScript is the primary portion of the content in that class. But we were talking about event handlers.
The add event listener, it goes documents, so you're getting what you're listening to, the add event listener, what you're doing, and you add the event that you're listening to, and then you put the function that you want to run when the event is heard.
Very good, thank you very much. Those are the 3 elements. So number 1, you need to know what you are attaching the event to, right? In the case of JavaScript, this is some element of the page. Number 2, you need to know what event specifically you are listening for. Most of the time we're doing something like click or mouse over or mouse out. Some, mouse events are kind of like your typical example, but of course there's a very large number of them, right? And then we provide it a reference to the function we will execute when the event fires. Very good. We need to know all 3 of those pieces of information in Java to set up an event listener as well. Right? So, the syntax is a bit different though, as you might expect. Java and JavaScript, Java is to JavaScript as car is to carpet. So,
So you said with client-side stuff, the midterm will cover stuff up to module 2 or 3?
The SVG material is not on the midterm. Everything before it is. So that's modules 0, 1, and 2.
Okay, good to know.
You are also permitted a cheat sheet, 1 8.5 by 11 piece of standard printer paper, front and back, upon which you may put anything you like. Use it to study. So, yes. Where are we here? Yes. So, this is the line. Set on action, this, : my handler. So, we also define the handler as you might expect in Java, as a method of the class. Although normally, and this is an interesting case because we haven't, I think, seen this before except very rarely, the methods are supposed to be private. What does it mean for a method to be private? Yeah, yes?
It's only available to the class it's in.
It's only available to the class it's in. This makes perfect sense with respect to something like this, right? We're not intending to present the code that the button runs when it's clicked. We're not intending to present that as an interface to people using this class. So it makes sense, lock it down, make it private. So, within the space up here, private, are they void? I forgot. They are void. Private void go takes action event from JavaFX, call that E. So similarly to how the callback function for an event in JavaScript is passed an event object that contains useful information, such as what are the like actual physical coordinates that the button click occurred at, right? We get a similar object passed here. It is of class action event. So, let's just put something basic in here for now. When we click the button, we get an output line to the console that says that we clicked the button, just to make sure everything's hooked up correctly. So, now we need to add the event to the button. So we start with the button class, like the object, button go, dot, set on action. So the set on action method is encoding for us what type of event we are looking for in this specific case. All GUI elements in Java have a sort of registered default event, right? In the case of buttons, that default event would be click. Right. So that set on action uses the default action of the class. In the case of buttons, that's click. So we don't have to say, set a click event specifically. We're saying set the default event to this. Make sense? So like the information of what sort of event we're listening for is still necessary, right? It's just in this case we're using a default value. So now comes for a little bit of tricky syntax. This : go. Anybody in the crowd know what the : operator is or does?
Nope.
Yeah. Basically, the only way you would know this is if you were a C++. If you knew some C++ coming into this. Anybody in the crowd know some C++? A little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah? So what does : do?
I actually don't know. I don't think I've ever used that.
Ah. It's namespace resolution. So it's a scope resolution operator. Basically, when you are running something inside of a class, it's in Java, it's created within a scope called this, right? So this is saying, I want you to look specifically inside of the current scope for this method go. Why might we need to do that? It's to, yes, sorry?
Is it because there might be like a private method or something?
It's because there might be a method in a different place of the same name, right? So this is, so we hopefully have like a reasonable understanding of scoping as it pertains to variables, right? We understand variable scoping, right? Variables are allowed to have duplicated names so long as they are in different scopes. Methods are similar, but the way that you get to a different method scope is by that operator right there. You don't see this thing very often. You'll see it, you might see it once or twice if you learn how to do things in PHP. But again, you'll see it, not frequently, but occasionally in C++ as well. But yeah, you have a question?
There's something weird going on with my BT and Go and LV output.
Okay. Well, let me just finish this off and show that this works, and then I'll come around and take a look. So, rerun. There we go. Click the button. Click, 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 click. Aha! It works. So, if everybody could please get that working on your own, and yes, you have a question?
Go back up to where the go method is.
Absolutely, absolutely. There she is.
I have a question. So, the default action for the button is to be clicked, but if we want to assign a different action, technically could you?
Absolutely, yes. I can show you how to do that. Let's get this working first. Let's see here, what's that? Button go, doesn't have to not result symbol. That's because it's not been declared. So,
So label.
let me show you which lines you're missing.
JavaFX scene, right?
Yes, AWT will break everything immediately. You are missing line 42 and 43.
Same can resolve symbol actions.
That's an interesting one.
Oh, I missed the class.
No, I don't think you did.
Maybe I actually missed one.
Yeah, it's very like. I hate that it does that. That it has two libraries with all the same classes that are identical. Like, because it doesn't tell you. It's like, but yeah, that's the problem. It was like redirecting it to AWT.
That's so dumb.
I know.
Something weird happened when I put it in, sir.
Okay.
It was mainly with button.
So if it's read like this, it probably means that you imported the AWT T or failed to import the correct thing. Button 10, what's that one? Enter. There we go.
Yeah, not saying this.
That's because you need to change this to add all. There you go. And this dot go means you don't have the event handler entered.
Where's the event handler at?
It's outside of the scope of main.
Private void, yeah.
Yeah. So add line 19 through 21. Very good. So one of the questions from one of your esteemed peers is how do I hook things up to events other than the default one? So
So,
just kind of.
finished.
Yeah, I know, I have to keep the class going. So set, let's see here. Oh, there you go, actually. So unlike in JavaScript, where the event type is provided as an argument to the set event listener method, here you just get a different method for each different type of event. Right? So set on action, that's like the default action. But you can see we have actions for dragging and dropping, right? Key presses, which are kind of fun, right? Like actual keyboard inputs. Key typed, mouse clicked, right? So mouse clicked will be what set on action is redirecting to in the case of a button, right? You know, click, dragged, entered, exited, moved, pressed, released, scrolls, swipe downs, you know, there's your mobile stuff. There you go. So that's how you get to it. Thank you for the question. So, it occurs to me that it is 10:25 and that I am just about out of tea. So, I think it's time for a break. Shall we have our break? Shall we resume class at 10:40? That'll give everybody a chance to catch up. All right? All right. So let it be written. So let it be done. We shall resume class at 10:40. Very good. Like, it is actually kind of like somewhat problematic, like, because like that is the one that really should, like one of the two that really need to be off, you
Yeah.
know? However, I did notice they've got like a little, did you see that?
Yeah.
It's got like a little indicator light and it just blinked red. So I think maybe they must be doing these with Wi-Fi, these must be smart lights.
Yeah,
But then just like
I saw this one blink like
present sensor.
Well, here's a question then. If I turn them all off, does that one stay on? Debugging.
Yeah, I saw like those blink red too, like that, like the ones in this row.
Weird. I'm not a fan.
That's funny.
This is the problem with technology. Like, it's like, it's a lovely little dimmer, right? It's a lovely little thing, but maybe if I just had a switch for the front bank, you know, and it was a hardwired thing, and I could just turn off the front bank, maybe the second bank, that would be fine.
Maybe try poking the light with your lightsaber.
No, see, okay, here's the thing, right? Union stuff, I am only allowed to notice problems pertaining to the physical apparati of the building. I observe and report because if I attempt to press the button with my finger, I am taking work away from a maintenance person, and that is contrary to the collective agreement.
So you aren't legally allowed to fix any problems you see.
That's right. You want to hear a fun story?
Oh, always.
All right. So there's this really, really tiny classroom in the one corner of the basement of E-Wing. It's like the room, like soaking wet, the room sits like 18 to 20 people, right? So you can't put like a full section of anything in it. It has to be like, you know, a small section. It had an older style projector, and okay, actually these ones have it too. So you see this little mounting ring right there, right? I don't know how this happened, but like one day I go into the classroom, it's missing on one side, like which, okay, fine, like there were two rings and one of the links was missing. The end effect was that the thing was not level, right? The screen was like at like, you know, maybe a 2 or a 3 degree angle, right? And it's like, okay, fine, sure. Not the best solution. So I do the thing, I report it, because the image, of course, is projecting with like this corner over here and like this corner over there because of the rotation. And I'm like, you know, I'd like some standards. Could we have some standards, please, for delivery, right? So I send my ticket to IT. I come back the next week to see what they had done to fix it. The screen was framed within the thing, but it was still crooked. So rather than fix the screen, they fixed the orientation of the projector to match the broken screen. And I sent a somewhat tersely worded email to the IT department. You know, a month ago I had 0 things that were crooked. We then had 1 thing in the classroom that was crooked. Now we have 2 things in the classroom that is crooked. Is there a solution to this problem where none of the things in the classroom are crooked? Or are you going to come in and adjust all of the students' seats 3 degrees that way? I didn't quite say all of that in the email.
Do you think they did it on purpose, just to mess with you?
No, I think that was their genuine and honest attempt to solve the problem as quickly and efficiently as possible.
That's the easy fix.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Here's what happened in the end, right? Did they find a new little metal hook of the appropriate size to hang the thing properly? No. They replaced the whole goddamn screen over one missing thing there. Now, to be fair, it was an older screen, but there was nothing wrong with it, right? It maybe was a little bit tad yellowed from age, but you know how much these things cost? These screens?
$2,000.
Yeah, like they're in the thousands of dollars, these things. So, you know, 25-cent loop, like $2,000 screen. Is it any wonder that the sector gets panned for over, you know, not using resources efficiently? You know? Because like that's a microcosm of everything, you know? If that's the attitude towards one problem, that's probably the attitude towards other problems, right? For example, okay, this has just become me griping about IT, the segment. So, in my office, I have a computer tower that was gratefully provided by the college, right? I snuck my own hard drive into it and I boot Linux on it. I don't use Windows. And I'm glad I did. Because I had it for a couple of years and then a stick of RAM blew. This is the type of thing that happens, I guess, you know. Probably particularly if you're using cheap RAM, I would estimate. But you know, the chip, like RAM, sometimes you just lose a stick. It's fine, whatever, right? So I'm like, okay, I could go buy RAM. This was well before the current RAM crisis, by the way. I could go buy a stick of RAM, but this is supposed to be an institutionally maintained machine. Why should I have to buy my own RAM for this machine, right? I'm already kind of like, they don't really want me inside the case anyways. If that were the case, they should have put a lock on it. Of course, you know, here's a little tip and a trick for you. If anybody gives you a computer and the bootloader is unlocked, that is your computer now. So I'm like, okay, IT, the RAM has blown, you know, like I opened it up, I took the RAM out, I put the one that was good in, you know, because there were 2 sticks. I went from like 16 to 8, and 8 gig. 8 gigs isn't really enough, especially if you're doing virtualization, which I occasionally have to do. So I'm like, I'd like an 8 gig memory stick, please. You can just give it to me, I'll put it in, it's no trouble, right? You should probably have some somewhere, right? Like, in my naivete, I assumed that like an IT department of an institution this size would have like a certain stock of like computer parts that they would issue when things break, you know? I would think that would be reasonable. Apparently I was wrong. So it's like, we want your computer. And I'm like, immediately opens up case, takes hard drive out, puts it back together again and says, okay, come pick it up. And I'm glad I did, because, whoo boy. You want to know how many days it took them to put a new stick of RAM in that computer? Because I timed them. Anybody care to guess?
10?
More than 10.
At 21, 3 weeks.
You actually got it exactly. It was 21 days it took them, not including weekends.
Oh, 21 business days?
Yeah, 21 business days.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. So this is how this went, right? I'm like, okay, I give him the computer. I give him like, I think I gave him like 3 days. And I'm like, hey guys, where's my computer that only needs a RAM stick? And they're like, well, we've done an assessment and we have determined that the RAM slot may have become damaged. And I'm like, well, that wasn't me. You know, because that's kind of like a sneaky little, you were inside of this thing, weren't you? Did you damage the computer equipment? It's like, no, I know how to take I know how to put RAM in, you know? Good grief. So, it's like, okay, so the RAM slot has become damaged. In theory, somehow, because they didn't even confirm that that was actually the truth, right? What do? You need a new motherboard. I'm like, okay. So apparently this is like a fairly common thing with like institutional IT, like Gesundheit. institutional like IT contracts, because the contracts with Dell, right? Like if anything's wrong, they'll just replace the motherboard, right? Because it's like, this is like actually finding out what the problem was is not worth our time. Here's a new motherboard. That's kind of.
They did the same thing.
Sorry.
HP, they did the same thing.
Yeah, I consider this to be like a phenomenal waste of resources, but you know, I guess motherboards are so cheap. I guess they're worth more than people's time, worth less than people's time, anyways. So, all right, okay, IT, you need a new motherboard. How long is it going to be? Well, we have to get it in. It's like, okay, well, it's going to be some time then. So it's like check back in next week. I'm like, okay. All right. You got the motherboard, but the Dell guy has to install it. When's the Dell guy going to be here? He's going to be here Wednesday of next week. Okay, all right, the Dell guy is coming Wednesday of next week. All right, fine. The Dell guy, the next email I get, right? Well, we've had to take your computer to Toronto. Why did you have to take my computer to Toronto? Some of the screws holding the motherboard back in may have become stripped.
What does that mean?
So a stripped screw means, you know the hollow in the point of the screw where you put the screwdriver in?
Well, like the hole?
Yeah, like if you use the wrong screwdriver with too much force, you'll wear away the things that catch the screwdriver, and that's called stripping the screw. It means the screw can't effectively be removed anymore, and sometimes they have to be drilled out if it's sufficiently bad. Although, if you want a little hacker's tip on that, if you take a hacksaw and you cut a slot vertically in the screw head, you can often get a flathead in there and get it out. You just kind of, yeah.
Also, if you put a piece of tape on it, but it has to be kind of like, doctor's tape, put on top of it, or even like a plastic bag, you can also make it enough space to get it out.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty good tip too. Look at me with my hacksaw. Sometimes when you want to be a hacker,
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, well, that says hack. I'm a hacker. I'm using a hacksaw. But yeah, so they stripped the screws in the motherboard, and I'm like, but you're supposed, and in my brain, you're supposed to be a Dell technician. How is it possible for a Dell technician to not know how to unscrew a motherboard in a Dell computer? Apparently, he also had not brought the right type of screwdriver with him when he came to his visit to this institution from Toronto. He drove all the way from Toronto to here without having the right screwdriver. So they brought my computer back to Toronto. I was like, okay, give it another week. I got my computer back. It's delivered to my desk, and it's like, does it work? Okay, it works. Okay, fine. Finally, the thing was fixed. I take my hard drive, which I got one of those little like toaster adapters that you'd stick like a hard drive in, and you can like USB it into like a laptop. That was like how I was getting some of my files that weren't backed up to like GitHub. That's how I was doing that in the intervening period. And that thing was probably more than the RAM chips I should have bought, right? But I have a toaster, a drive toaster now, so there you go. Yeah.
What's the drive toaster called? And is it hot swappable?
Oh, I forget.
Yeah.
I just call it the drive toaster because it looks like a toaster. Hard drive. What is it like? It's drive. What's the? It's SATA to USB adapter. Not quite one of these toaster style. Let's see here. Yeah, one of these.
Okay.
Yeah. So you kind of just stick the drive in the top, and
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, these things actually it was kind of interesting for me because I didn't realize this was a category of product, but this is a thing you can actually use to duplicate drives as well, which I imagine like there would be people who would, you know, if you own 1 or 2 hard drives, you probably don't need a device like this. But if you own like 50 or 60, you probably need a device like this to be able to like duplicate data on them and like do real backups, you know? Any IT professional should know the data is not actually yours unless you have it in triplicate on independent places, right? So for me, that is my computer at work, my laptop, which is my personal device, and GitHub. Those are my 3 places. I own my data because I have it in triplicate. And I use GitHub to coordinate those. So, and I know GitHub is Microsoft and Microsoft is evil. I know. I should use something else.
It
GitLab
wasn't
or
made
something.
by Microsoft, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's also kind of like, you know,
Pretty much the only option
yeah.
for like wide scale code hosting.
Yeah, and like if you don't know how to use GitHub, you're not a software developer,
Yeah.
you know, so, yeah, but anyway, so that's what I was using in the interim. But yeah, so yeah, that was a digression in my life, almost as long as that digression I just had in class. But yeah, IT departments are universally hated by anybody who has to use computers for these types of reasons, you know. It's like, all I needed was 8 gigs of RAM. All I needed was, that's all I needed. I didn't even need them to, you know, put it in. I could have put it in myself. But like, did they forget that you have to unclip the RAM? Were they just pulling on it? Is that how they broke the RAM slot? Assuming they broke the RAM slot? It's less mysterious how the screw got stripped, because if you use the wrong screwdriver on a screw, that'll strip the screw. By the way, what's the one thing that you don't want in a computer casing?
Screw shavings?
Yes, metal filings, because they'll fall across contacts and short out the circuit board. Right? Anyway, what were we even doing? Oh yeah, okay. So, up to the end of the last segment of this class, we had gotten an event hooked up to our button. A few things remain. Yes?
Are you recording?
I am recording it. That whole diatribe was recorded. That's kind of the fun thing of like doing like actual class recordings and not like pre-scripted, you know, lessons. Some people like to do like the pre-scripted lesson videos, but I'm like, nah. Have it natural.
Yeah.
Give them the full class experience, you know. Including me complaining about IT. But actually, I will justify it this way. I have a justification. Part of my job, most of my job, is to teach you how to program. But part of my job is to enculturate you into the profession that you're entering, right? So you must not only program, you must be aware of the industry and like how things work in organizations, and really the way you learn that stuff is by listening to people gripe about things. So there you go. That's official class content, my story about how IT took, you know, the better part of a month to get me a RAM stick. Let that inform your future decisions about whether you're going to leave getting a single RAM stick to your IT department.
I mean, it's an excuse not to do work.
Yeah, but see, like, that's really only, like, effective for, like, a couple of hours. It's like, oh man, you know, how long can I use that as an excuse to not do work? It's like assignments are still piling up, you know? Like, work must be done, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so, alright. Input and output. We have things which are input devices, input objects. We have a thing which is the output object. We need to learn how to get data out of inputs and into outputs. IPO processing, if you will. So, TF input 1 dot, interesting. Why is this red?
It's an error.
It is an error. What sort?
I can't really see the sticks and like. Could it be because?
Let's see what context says. Cannot resolve symbol TF input 1. What does cannot resolve symbol mean?
Needs it out of scope.
It means it's out of scope. Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say not really registered or non-scope.
Yes, it's not in scope. Consider the way that we declared these things. Right? So we declared them down here. What is the context in which we declared them? Yes.
Well, it was inside the class, right?
Well, everything's inside the class. What method is this inside of?
It's inside the public void start exception, I think.
Yes. So,
And what you put there was outside of it, meaning it won't register because what you put within it, like the label and whatnot, it's only local to that class and whatnot.
method.
That's
Yes.
thank you.
So these are local to the method, which means they need to not be local to the method in order to be able to use them outside of the method. How do we make it so that something is not a local variable in Java?
Make it global or public.
Well, global is, I don't think a keyword you can use, is it? Global? Nope, global is not a keyword in Java. It is in Python though. Public? Not in this context.
You could reassign it, like make a new variable with the value of the variable you want to be global or public.
If I were to redeclare this in a global context, where would I put it?
Outside of the statement
Outside of the method.
method.
Yes. So, the problem is that this is the declaration line, right? We need to declare these things in a broader context. So, we take this and we put it as an instance variable of the class. Ba-boom. Now, this is okay. Let's see if we can now read the value in the variable. So the method to get the text contained in a text field is getText. Huzzah! Let's see if this works. So the program thus constituted should echo the input into the console. Yes?
Because you have two inputs, couldn't you technically put them inside of an array as well?
Yes, you could, yeah. If it's only two items, I usually don't bother with an array. But yes, absolutely, this would be an appropriate context, especially as the form grows. So, you'll notice I click this and I get all of that. So we are still not quite there. Here's the problem, cats and kittens. Although this instance of the variable is linked here, is that black or purple?
Black.
What does black mean?
Black means it's good.
Well, it means there are no errors, but purple means it's an instance variable. What does black mean?
Black means it's not being used anywhere.
Well, that's gray, actually, I think. Gray means not used anywhere. Purple means it's an instance variable of the class. Black means,
I was going to say I'm having a weird problem with mine, but black means, well, it's normal, it's local to that class.
that's correct. Method. So this is a local variable still. Note, we forgot to delete that. So in order to use the instance variable, the global version of that thing, we need to not redeclare it in this context. See? I remove that, it turns purple. Purple in IntelliJ means it's now linked as an instance variable of the class, which means if we run this, everything works. Ta-da! Make sense? So let's take a moment now and repeat that process for all of the other objects which are in the form. Shall we? So, private text field TF input 2,
Sir,
private, yes?
were you going to take a look at my situation?
Yes, just let me finish this. Private, what was the other one? It was a label. LB
Label LB
output. There we go. We now have instance variables. Oh, I think it's the little like yellow background means it's not being used. It's
Yeah.
redundant. All right, let me take a look and see what you got here. Let's see what you got here. Yes, you need to add the line 17.
like under here.
Yes, right there.
So like, oh, it's a separate thing. Got it.
Good. Any questions? Very good.
FX, right?
Yes. Don't do AWT. That will break everything immediately. So, very good, very good. So now we have the ability to access the fields of this form. We must now use them. Uh-oh. All I am doing is attempting to register the inputs in these fields to local variables within the event listener callback function. This is a type error. What sort of type error?
like a data type error?
Yes. Yes?
I was supposed to say it's just it's trying to get a string when you're trying to make an integer.
That's right. So,
It's actually a data type error.
yes. So getText reads the contents of the text field as a string, even if we expect it to be numeric. That doesn't necessarily mean it's numeric, right? Yes?
I was going to say something's up with my getText.
Yes. I have to do the lesson, and the interruptions are constant.
Sorry.
Thank you. So, the problem here from like a satisfying the type checker point of view, the getText method returns a string, but we are trying to squeeze that thing into an integer variable, right? These are incompatible types, which means we need to explicitly convert types. So, does anybody remember how we convert a string to an integer inside of Java?
Is a toString.
That's the other way around. That's for converting integers to strings, right? So, does anybody remember how you do it in JavaScript? In JavaScript, it is number.parseInt. Here, integer.parseInt. So fairly similar way of doing it actually. Now, in the case of JavaScript, of course, JavaScript strangely pretends that there's no distinction between integers and floating point numbers. JavaScript, in theory, has only one data type for not, well, okay. Let's give the devil his due. JavaScript recently introduced a second data type for large numbers, which it calls, get this, big int. That is a true fact. JavaScript has a big int type, all right? Which is basically like long in Java. But, you know, number is the name of the class that contains these definitions in JavaScript. Integer, because we recognize the difference between integers and doubles, is the same thing here in Java. Make sense? Any questions? So, basically, in theory, a lot of this you could, like, if the calculations are reasonably easy, you could be tempted to, like, one-line these, right? But the thing is, it's really a lot more difficult to sort of sort out these types of type incompatibility issues if you're trying to do too much at once on a line, right? So especially when you're sort of in your early phases of programming development, right? If you're still developing your skill, it really pays dividends to break your program up into a large number of short lines of code. It'll make it much, much easier to debug. Don't worry about the length of your program. I am not Dave Gilbert. You are not in Dave Gilbert's class. There are no requirements on your assignments for being able to fit it in X number of lines of code. He does do that, yeah. But he doesn't do it until like you hit like 5th or 6th semester courses.
Who is he?
Dave Gilbert? Oh, he's one of the professors in the department. Yeah. If you don't have him for Java, the next likely time you'll see him is either for parallel processing or there's an analytics and metrics course that he teaches. Oh, you might have him for Android as well.
Maybe also database too.
Oh yeah, database, he teaches database. He also teaches data structures and algorithms. So earliest you'll see him as databases next semester, 3rd semester. But I like him, he's a friend of mine. We hang out, we're cool. Well, we don't hang out, but we're definitely not enemies, so that's good. I like Dave. He's a math major. He's very kind of rigorous and precise. He loves graphs. He judges the quality of an entire textbook by how well they formatted their graphs. So, anyway, so we have the data. We now do something with the data. String output is equal to hi name aged age. So you construct your output, or you do your processing, input, processing, then you do your output. Label, output, dot. Well, if getText gets the text, what's the method name to set the text?
Set text.
You see how nice it is when, like, there are conventions for things? You know? Set text output. There we go. Let's run it. Nick, aged 38. That is my actual age. There you go. Boom. Ta-da! Any questions? Yes.
The blue thing around the button, is that default of Java?
Ooh, okay, that's actually interesting. But it doesn't really, okay. See how I'm, so it's the tab, that's the tab highlighted one. Web pages will do this as well, although normally there's so many components on a web page that, like, it's not really useful to tab through. But okay, quick tip for using computers, okay? Whenever you have a GUI of this type, one of the elements will be highlighted. You can move to the next element using tab, you can move to the previous element using shift tab, and using this you can enter great quantities of information into forms without having to touch your mouse, right? If the Go button is highlighted, pressing enter activates the button. Make sense? So good? All good? Yeah? Okay, good. Did I tell you the thing about carpal tunnel? Okay, so if you know Simon Galton, who's another, he's on the networking side, he's in, yeah, you know him?
No, I was gonna say something weird happened with my output.
Yes, I'll take a look in a moment. So Simon Galton is, he had quite an extensive career in industry before he came to teach at the college. And he said in his career he knew 3 people that had to have carpal tunnel surgery. In every case it was on the right hand, and in every case they were Windows admins. Why, you may ask? It's because mice are literally the worst input device devised by humankind. Like, mice are terrible, and they should feel bad for how bad they are. Mice are terrible. Look, like, there it is. Look at this thing. That's a mouse! Somebody made that.
That looks AI generated, I'm gonna be so honest.
No, I know, but it isn't. It isn't. That's a real mouse.
Our trackpad's just not.
Yummy.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh man. Okay. So for the JavaScript rewrite, I put a small segment in on ergonomics, and I have a gallery of bad mice. I'll show you some of the highlights. So yeah. Trackpad mouse. No. It's trackpad, bad mouse. Try that. Images. Terrible. I can't find it. Someone ask me and I'll send you some photos. Okay, but you want to see the worst mouse I've ever seen in my life.
Yes.
Look at this. The new Nintendo has,
Oh yeah, the Switch 2.
yeah, you can use it as a mouse. They built a little mouse sensor into the bottom of the controller, so it's the worst mouse, because you're still expected to use the buttons on the controller. Yes.
I printed an ergonomic mouse grip for additions for my Switch 2 controllers.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to do that, because can you imagine trying to use that?
Yeah. Do you actually want to test it out and try it?
Maybe after class. I got the new Metroid game for my birthday, and it was like, do you want to use mouse mode? And I'm like, come again? Mouse mode? I didn't even know the thing had this mode. But yeah, like,
Yeah.
look at that! Look at it!
Yeah.
This is supposed to be for video game inputs. People play video games for long periods of time. You can put 40 hours into a game, and that's a short game. 40 hours on a mouse like that? Give me strength.
Honestly, the only thing more outraging is Nintendo prices when it first came out.
So, Nintendo of the past kind of got a lot of stick for creating a generation of fat kids. In like 10, 15, 20 years' time, they will create a generation of people who need wrist surgery. That is what they're going to do with this. It's astonishingly bad. Who thought of that? Bad idea. Bad Nintendo. Alright. So, anyway. Moving swiftly on. There are a few more things to cover with respect to this. Because we're a little bit, we're having to move through the material reasonably swiftly. We are not having a lot of time for in-class exercises. So those are going to be all of your responsibilities. Either, I don't know how much you're going to be doing of it in past session, like actual practice, but do it as homework, all right? I'm going to give you your homework for the weekend right now, all right? Make me a calculator, all right? I expect everybody to have calculators next week. So we have some components, right? So far, so JavaScript. But this is Java, right? One of the things that we're trying to feed into your skulls is the model view distinction. So, the GUI can be the view for underlying model classes, right? Remember your vending machine assignment, right? The vending machine itself was the model. What was the view in that case? What did you write for the view?
It was like from the console.
Yeah, command line interaction, right? If you have done your model view separation correctly, you can take the vending machine class out of assignment 2 and write a graphical user interface for it without having to modify the vending machine class. That is the critical component, all right? If you have to modify the vending machine class to make that transition, then you haven't properly separated model from view, right? We have to think in terms of separation of concerns, right? Separation of concerns some people, what's the other term people use for this? Modularization is another term people use for this. This is like a key fundamental skill of a software developer. If you can't modularize, if you can't separate in your mind regions of the program that do different things, you're going to have a tough time, right? So, you may notice one of the differences between the GUI template and the graphics template that we had before. Where is our graphics context? Yeah.
Graphics context should be like at the not at the bottom.
Well,
The graphics context is like importing everything, right?
not quite. So, take a look at this line right here. There is a graphics context object which is instantiated. You may remember the GC object, right? Hopefully you will remember the GC object when you do assignment 3.
It was like to make shapes, right?
That's right. This is the thing that makes shapes. So, we are now going to explain those 2 lines of code that set up the ability to draw in SVG. First, you need a canvas. You declare a canvas in this manner, you give it a width and you give it a height. This is a component that can be relocated. In your JavaFX graphics template, the canvas is defaulted to the size of the thing, right? The whole thing is canvas, so there's no point in trying to relocate it. We now can think of the canvas as a sub-component inside of the GUI. Like so. In this example, this is the canvas. Anything we draw goes in here. But you'll notice that if we have any overlap with the outside world, that's not part of the viewport. Right? So, let's set it up. I'm going to increase the height of my window so I have a little bit more room to work. Let's create a new canvas. Oh, AWT. Canvas, JavaFX, thank you very much, sir/madam. Did you import that? You did not. Alright. New canvas. Of size, let's say 200 by 200. We cannot add we can't add rectangles and circles and things to the canvas directly. We must get a 2-dimensional graphics context. That is the GC. Graphics context, GC, is equal to new graphics C dot get graphics context 2D. There we go. Wait, get rid of the new. There we go. Boom. Between these 2 lines, we now have a GC which we can use to draw things. Let's see what this looks like. In fact, it doesn't look like anything because a graphics context is blank until you use it. So, let's quickly throw in a rectangle. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. That's not the reason. I forgot to add it. I forgot to add it to the thing. So you got to put your canvas in there too. There we go. Rerun. There we go. There we go. All right, so it's in there. But we do still need to actually see what's in it, that there's anything in it. So GC dot draw, wow, what is it? Add, what is it, rectangle? Fill rectangle, position 0, 0, width 200, height 200, gc.setFill, color dot, Alice blue, there we go, the hello world of CSS colors. Aha!
Oh, embarrassing.
Well, we did one thing anyway. It's over top of all of the other components, right? So, how do we affect draw order? That's a good question. That's not the way to do it. Is there like a C dot send to back? Set view order. Something to do with that will do. Yeah? Yes?
Can't you use like a Z index or something?
Yeah, I believe that's what view, that's what the thing I just did
Oh.
does. So, but this is only really important if you want to put like an image that you've done behind other components that you've done. The easiest way to fix this problem is to just relocate the canvas so that they're not intersecting. So if you put it at 0, 200, rerun it. You can see it's down here now, right? And that's fine. Make sense? So we can draw stuff on that, like that is a rectangle that we drew, right? So you can use all of the JavaFX graphics stuff that we've covered all the way since week 1 within this nice little thing. Make sense? So far, so good? Any questions? Yes.
So, when we're creating the canvas, we select the size that we want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would programming possibly, I don't know, would it be physically possible to have in a different shape, let's say a circle?
Ooh,
There even a thing?
I don't, like a canvas that's circular?
Yeah, there is nothing. Or a triangle.
Probably not. If you wanted a canvas that was circular, in this type of environment, I think what you would have to do is fill, what is it, oval? Yeah. Well, just give me a second. gc.set fill color dot blue. gc.fill oval. Put it in the middle, so 100, 100. Set x radius as 100. Width will be 200. Height will be 200. There we go. Strange. Oh, that's the top point. Okay. Sorry, I'm mixing up JavaScript and Java here. In Java, you do it from the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if you wanted to keep everything, if you wanted a thing that was like a circular canvas, you would just, draw a circle as the background.
And just
Right.
take everything inside the circle.
Keep everything inside the circle, yeah. If you don't set a background color, I believe the background color defaults to like transparent.
Oh.
Yeah, so basically There's no way to do it that I'm aware of that like restricts you to do it that way. But you can fake it. If you get into advanced settings, maybe there's a way to do masking. I'm not sure. An advanced image editor would let you do masking. Yeah. I don't know if SVG goes quite that far though. Yeah. Cool. All right. Very good question. Thank you very much. So basically, if you're just drawing things, you know, so what? If we link this to objects, this becomes more interesting, right? Let's say, for example, we have a simple class that represents a circle, right? A circle with, you know, double x, y width and height, right? Perhaps we throw a constructor in that requires all of those. Alt insert constructor, all of the things, go! Ooh, so fast, so pretty. We can then insert another method taking the graphics context, which draws the thing. Public void draw. There we go. Taking a graphics context, GC, GC dot fill oval x, y, width, and height. Right? So, by doing this, we can abstract a lot of this gross stuff which looks very hard-coded, right? So we can create a model. So let's make a circle, C1, make that a new circle. Let's perhaps locate it at, 20, 20 with width 10 and height 10. Right? We can then, rather than having to have all of this code, we can just simply say c1.draw and pass to it the graphics context we want to draw it on. Right? This is going to be a useful thing for you for assignment 3. Right? So, you may even do something like this. Give me a color as well. Yeah, from JavaFX, thank you. gc.set fill C. There we go. And then you can even say draw on this context in this color. Color dot maybe papaya whip. And it broke. Where are we here? C1.
Did you add it to the get children, the root?
The canvas is added to the root, and that should be enough. Okay. Let's do a 3-minute debug. Let's see if we can fix this in the remaining 2 minutes in class. So, number 1. See if the method is actually being called. S out, exclamation mark. I often use exclamation mark. There we go. Is it being drawn? It is being drawn. We are entering the method. Set fill C. None of these are returning problems, right? So, next thing to check is to check to see that your the values you're writing are actually real values. Let's take X and Y to be representative. Look at the memory. That is how you debug. You look at the memory. 20 and 20. Okay, so those are real values. Good.
What actually draws the oval though? 'Cause you set the color. Is it like a stroke or is it fill?
Yeah.
That is supposed to be okay.
I can't see the problem.
There's no C1 in your root get children at all.
Well,
If you have the honor sum, it's not.
that's because it's not a GUI component, right? That's our custom class. If I put it in there, it's even incorrect
Okay, right.
because it's not a node, not an instance of node. Oh man, I hate ending classes on an error.
I'm just tired.
Yeah. There's some problem in this. I'll post the code. I'll see if I can figure it out. But that's class. So thank you very much for your time. Oh, yes?
It's about the Java game.
Oh, yeah. That's it for class. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Study for the JavaScript test.